And we're live. So, welcome everybody to yet another live interview show with Become a Fearless Father. And today I have the pleasure to be accompanied by Aaron Ross. Wait till I tell you, or wait till he tells you how many kids this guy has. You will flip and will listen for the rest of the interview with all your ears open. And don't forget, have a pen and paper. Take notes. Not kidding. There's always huge golden nuggets been dropped during these live interviews, and this one is going to be no different. Sorry for the voice, people. I had no voice this weekend. I'm glad I have one so we could actually do this. So let's get into it right now. Aaron, I read you were so kind enough to answer some questions for me before we started, and I was like, what? So you said, let's talk about building a $5 million business.
Yep.
And at the same time, parenting, I'm not going to say the number, you can say that, a huge amount of kids, right?
Well, honestly, to some people, 9 kids isn't that many because there's families with like 15 or 20. So we have 9 kids and we've been working on a 10th, but yeah.
Oh, just,
I guess it's not as common today to have 9 kids.
No, absolutely not. We got 2. I want 3, but my wife's like, nah, 2 is enough. And then most people are with 1 are like, yo, we done.
I know.
Now, I have a really good friend, a client of mine. He has 9 kids. That's crazy. He's making it work. They're all his, right? So I'm looking at his wife. I'm like, wow,
yeah,
respect. That's crazy.
Oh, that's tough.
Right?
Yeah, we have a little bit of everything. So 2 kids were from my wife's first marriage.
Okay.
And we've had 3 biological kids together, and we've adopted 4. Wow. And again, we've kind of been working on adopting there's a 10th that we keep talking about. We've tried, hasn't worked out yet in terms of a baby boy. But I will say that when people go, oh my God, 9 kids, it's so many. But when I do hear about families where they're all biological, because that first year or 2 of that baby stage is just rough.
Yeah.
It's just rough. Like physically rough. Like there's every phase of parenting has its own, fun parts and challenging parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, baby after baby. So my wife, she's had 5 of the 9 herself and 4 adopted so far. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. So share with us, what have you learned that made it possible for you to build a $5 million business? Wow. Because I saw the pictures. I'm like, man, this dude is engaged as a dad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no.
How do you do that?
Yeah, and so just to be clear, about 10 years ago when I met my now wife, so in 2009, coming on 10 years, so I didn't have any kids, and I was making about $70,000 a year, and not because I probably could have made more. I was more just experimenting and kind of making up to get by. And in getting married, so the thing is, when we got married, and so she had 2 kids already, so we had 2 kids, and I never used the term stepchild. It's always like my son or my daughter. Maybe some are adopted, some are bio, some this, that, but so we had a son and daughter from that, and she got pregnant very quickly. And I still remember that moment around like, oh shit, I need to make more money in a more predictable way because now I have a family.
Yeah.
And so what that did is it really catalyzed me to nail my own niche and on my expertise and a specialty. And so I published a book and found a partner and kind of did some business steps in order to make more money, which I did. I grew my income quite a bit in a few years. So it really was creating a business from under $100,000 to 5, going on, 6 or 7 million this year. At the same time, going from 0 to 9, going on 10 kids. So one of the things is just like how much more we can accomplish or do more than we think we can. There's always a way to do more, and there is a trade-off, right? So for a lot of years, a lot of times, like struggling with things like self-care, sleep, energy, mental space. So there's these trade-offs, and we've been willing to kind of build the family and give up things like free time and a little bit of sanity because it just felt right. We didn't set out to try to have a big family. It just has happened that way, step by step. And so that's one thing. There's always ways to do more than you think you can. And so for me, like having kids and having a family has kind of forced me to be a better person, a better business person, better with my time, more focused on how to make money in smart ways, better as, again, an individual, like more compassionate, more patient, better setting boundaries with people, because kids are very challenging that way. But I think ultimately, like we sell ourselves short when we come up with a lot of reasons why we can't accomplish like that next thing we're trying to do. Whether it could be start a business, it could be grow a business, it could be having another child. Like I said, I totally get the feeling when you've got 1 or 2 or 3 kids and you're just toast. I've been there so many times, and for us, we just kind of made things work one way or the other. Now, some of the kids, 3 of the kids we adopted, one was 4 years old, though he has special challenges, and 2 were teenagers, 16 years old. So we skipped the baby stage in some ways, which does make a difference. So that's a bit story. That's a whole nother story, kind of like the variety of kids, in terms of challenges that some had, versus like having our own kids, and a lot of variety in the family. That makes it tough. There's no, although I'm known for that book, Predictable Revenue, I have no predictability here in the South.
But at the same time, man, I think challenges make life interesting and make us grow, right? Trying to reach that level of overwhelm where you just feel comfortable in the overwhelm, or comfortable in the pain, sometimes I say.
Well, and being a parent of 1 to however many, it's a way to force yourself into being challenged and forcing yourself to grow, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. So, Aaron, before we go any further, man, share with us a little bit about you. What we heard now that you got 9 kids, 10th one, in process, married for almost 10 years. But share a little bit more, especially in regards to business wise. You just mentioned like you had you were what I look like, you were a zombie dad, but you weren't there yet. You were just stuck in like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. I'm making 70K, 80K, whatever it is, right? And I'm comfortable.
Yeah, enough to get by. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then all of a sudden it clicked for you and you stepped out of there and you became what I call, 10 kids and then making 5 million. That's for me, a fearless father all the way every day. So what's a little bit that journey coming from that, especially your mindset and stuff like that?
Sure. And by the way, I don't make 5 million. My income it's close to $1 million. But the whole business is 5 going on. And so like one of the things, just here's one, and there's so many things, but one of them is I've just realized before I got married and had babies. So before we had babies, I could afford the luxury of waiting until I was inspired to write. After that, and I don't remember exactly when, some point along the way, I just couldn't. I remember writing the last book. The first big book I did was called Predictable Revenue. The sequel to that was called From Impossible to Inevitable. It's really like how companies can make more money to grow faster. Very highly, a lot of people in like the startup Silicon Valley sales roles know these books. So that Impossible book, I remember having to write that. The only way I could do that was really with deadlines, because I didn't have the time, the energy, the idea that I just was so done. And I think we had 5, I don't remember if we had 5 kids or 6 kids. I don't remember the number of kids, might have been 7 at that point, whatever. There was still a lot of kids. And the only way I was able to get that done was first, basically having a partner, and then we got a publisher. So now there's like other people I have to show up for, and there's like some time frames. And then I blocked out Wednesdays to write. So I didn't take meetings. It was really like 6 hours. So I drop kids at school typically. And I am a very active father. I usually work, I probably work maybe 20 hours a week, work. Nice. But the thing is, I had to figure out how to get what's the most important things to be done in that time. I can't just throw more hours at my projects. So I have to be more patient and think more about like, how do I actually really use my time? But it was really this, I couldn't afford to wait until I felt inspired to write or work on this book. I had to like set a schedule and basically stick to it. I probably did 2 days a month over the course of, I don't know if it's like a year, or whatever the time frame was. The whole book probably took about 2 years, but that includes, it wasn't all writing. There was lots of other things, but it's like cover or just trying to find the right partner or just some other ideas. But it was just, I couldn't afford to wait until I had the time or the money or the energy. I just had to move forward and just do it. And for me, and when I haven't given that many talks, right? So this, you mentioned this title of a talk this year I came up with, and I've been playing with it, is, growing a $5 million business while raising 10 kids, because we're still working on the 10th. And really kind of this lesson that for me really worked and kind of powered me through all these years of when being exhausted or not having money, or how do I keep going when I'm not even sure what to do next? Like, I'm sure we've all been in this place of business-wise or family-wise, just like, I don't even know what to do next. There's some problem, like maybe there's a child that has some sort of trouble at school or at work. Maybe I remember I lost a partner, or there's some kind of financial goal, and it's like, I don't even know. I don't know what to do. And just committing to taking a step in some way. So I call them forcing functions. It's kind of like forcing myself to do things whether I feel like it or not. Because like a lot of people, I suffer from things like procrastination or overwhelm, paralysis. Forcing functions, the simple idea is, if you're going to get into shape, do you join a gym, or do you sign up to do a marathon and tell all your friends you're doing it? Right. So if you're going to write a book, you can sit there and kind of like write it once in a while, like, or do you announce on social media, hey, I'm going to write a book, or get a writing partner? Like, there's different ways you can kind of create this forcing function to force yourself to do things that you resist, things that you put off, whether because of lack of energy, whether it's because of resistance. I don't remember the book, but there was a famous book around just how everybody suffers from resistance. We have all these great ideas. Why don't we do them, right? There's different versions of resistance. We all have it. So some people, like myself, I tend to be more like a deer in headlights, like paralyzed. What do I do? So having a date, like one of my favorites is announcing I'll do an event, like I'll do a webinar, speaking event at a certain date, and then I have to show up and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So deer in headlights. Some people, like my wife, is more like a rabid chihuahua, where she just kind of like spins in circles, like just like working too quickly without really stopping to kind of think, what am I going to do? So everyone has these habits of how they deal with stress. And if you can kind of like know what yours are and work around yourself, you're giving yourself a leg up. So for me, that paralysis, like having deadlines and forcing functions, like forced me to focus and to get it done, no matter how much time or not I've got. So that would be, if I wrote a book today, it would be about that, because that has really been the thing that has powered me to be a successful business person in making money, and having a business with great partners and basically a great business, and having an amazing family, being and I say being a better person, as we all can be, we all want to be. And there's nothing like having a family and kids gives you the motivation to, again, kids, amazing forcing function for me, force myself to sort of be better at business, to make more money, force myself to be just a better person for them. Not a perfect person, because God, Lord knows I'm not that, but a better person. And I'm just like everyone. I could easily make a list of all the faults I've got as a father right now. We can all do that. And that's all right. We've all got that. So I pick one or two at a time to work on. Exactly. Right now, I'm working on how to stay more connected to my older kids, because they're like at university and boarding school, and I don't talk to them very much. So that's like a current thing I am baby stepping towards. I've not taken enough action on that yet.
I like that, man. Yeah, that's smart thing to just focus on. Okay, what's the next thing that I can improve on to elevate everything else, to make everything better, both business and in life. Tim, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right, man. They're great strategy ideas. I like when people interact. So anybody out there else, make sure you hit that heart button. Make sure you share this with your friends, and make sure, yeah, man, let Aaron know if you really enjoyed that, and then let it know. It makes us feel good and give you more, right? The more we get from you, the more we get. The way this works. So one of the biggest excuses I get, well, as you mentioned, like procrastination, etc., right? One of the biggest excuses that I get is people saying like, oh yeah, time, I don't have the time, right?
For what?
It-
Yeah.
Working out, right? You said, for example, like you got to take care of yourself, right? And sometimes you just leave that, you make a choice to say, okay, and right now that's going to be a little bit on the back burner because I can, or you make it work, right? So what's your strategy? How do you work around time management and the excuse of saying like, oh yeah, I can't do that, I don't have the time?
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, trust me, there are lots of times with, again, lots of kids, lots of young kids, because they're extra challenging when you've got like a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, right? You can't, they don't really understand.
Nope.
You can't talk to them, right? Or so sometimes really you don't have, I would say not so much the time, but the energy. I don't have the energy, like emotional energy or physical energy. Usually people who say they don't have the time, it tends to be an excuse or a pattern. What tend to mean is it's not I'm not making that a priority, or other things are more important.
Exactly.
So at least for me, so what I do with time is calendars are very important to me. If I don't put it on the calendar, like exercise, if I don't put it on the calendar, it tends not to happen. You can make the time for things. You do have to trade off, right? If you, it's just a trade off. But for me, if I schedule something on the calendar in terms of a gym, and ideally, if I have a trainer I really like, or there's a class I like, and that's kind of like that extra level of, I would call it, again, a forcing function. Some people would call it accountability, or it's kind of external energy or forces to help make me do it.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do I get myself to do things that I want to do, or that are challenging, or maybe I know I need to do them, but I don't want to. So that's best for me, is having a trainer at a certain time, or a class. And so I think there's these 4 blocks that I tend to do. And trust, my calendar is such a pain in the ass because it's always changing with school startups and starts. I travel, my wife travels. It's like, it's constant chaos. So I do my best, but work time. So things like this. So work time, basically family time. So that could be like dinners, meals, school drop off, and things like that. Again, I'm very active, every day. So romantic time with my wife, which really we haven't been able to do that for like 2 or 3 months, because we just moved from Los Angeles to Edinburgh, England, and that was just hell. I mean, in terms of the project. So okay, so there's work time, family time, romantic time, and kind of me time, which I struggle with still. And that could be putting time to do like hobbies. So one of the things I probably didn't really get it until I'm here, and I really have. It's so easy to be drained as an entrepreneur and a parent when you are supporting so many things, right? And I'm just taking care of like so many things. And what I don't do a good job of, I think is really common is taking care of myself. I'm just not going to get very much the sleep thing. Just not going to happen, really. But time for hobbies, time for exercise, time to, like, what I'm working on right now is kind of just more micro moments, like a few minutes of meditation. I don't know. I can't say it's really helping or not yet, but it's just tough because at least for me, sticking to schedules and being consistent is really challenging. Part of that is because my schedule is constantly changing. So for example, moving here, and then my wife left for three weeks, and then on her own kind of business, and then she's back, and then she left for another couple of days, and then we had a teenager get here, and then I leave next week, and then I'm here, then I leave again. So I don't have a great strategy for when you have constant chaos like that. But I do know kind of time blocking is vital to me, and I don't have a great solution for more kind of me time, except for trying to, if I had like one goal right now. So there's 2 things. One goal is almost like doing some meditation when I have little moments, kind of like micro steps. And the other is like really trying to listen for what excites me, because sometimes I've been so tired, overwhelmed, there's so many things to do, it squeezes out kind of this enthusiasm for things.
That makes sense.
And it's interesting. We got this. One of my kids ordered a book, and the book, it's a kid's book, and the first half of the book is the story, and the second half of the book is how to write a story. But more for like kids, and it felt so simple, and I could tell it's just really drawn to that, like how to write and so I'm like, okay, there's something there. And start playing around with if I did a story, and I'd never really done that before. So I'm kind of trying to slow down to pay attention to these little easily lost, easily overlooked feelings of excitement or enthusiasm for things, to try to find out, like, where can I find some more emotional or spiritual, like, nourishment for myself. Exercise, sleep, and like things that I just enjoy doing just for the sake of enjoyment. So I'm still getting there.
Yeah. No. Well, it's a continuous journey, right? If not, what's the point? So I want to say, Aaron, what I really like is the way you share it and the way you keep putting things in perspective. It's not like, oh yeah, it's all great, but you keep putting it exactly the way it is, which really helps the audience realizing, like, okay, yeah, it's nice to have such a big business, but there's always challenges, right? Because
always.
The reason why, exactly. So the reason why I bring that up is because people always think, like, okay, money resolves everything, right? So it's always, yeah, but he has much money, so it's easy for him to have 10 kids. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah. So yes, no, right, because our bills, like, money does make things easier, but it's kind of like a business. I think people think, oh, you've got a $5 million business, or you've got a $50 million business. And to some extent, yes, there's a lot of advantages to that. But if things go wrong, it's like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Like, would you rather have a $50,000 debt for a small business, or a $5 million debt for a big business, kind of thing? So, would you rather lay off one person if there's troubling times, or 75 people? So I don't know. But yeah, and no matter where you are, like, a big family, awesome. I mean, I really love it, and it's a great family. Also means there's more kids, which means there's more issues just to deal with, right? Everyone's got something. One kid has ADHD or struggles at school, whatever. That's a big deal. Another kid we adopted, and he has physical disabilities. A baby we adopted her mom was on drugs. One kid doesn't like school. Another kid likes school. Like, there's always something. So I don't know. We just do it. It's basically, a lot of it comes down to what Nike, like, just do it. We just do it. Just do it. And it's not all ever done. There's always stuff that doesn't get done. Not every bill all gets paid. You might think, wow, we actually make almost, it's not like $800,000 a year, but our family costs like $60,000 a month.
Yeah, I guess.
Rent, like, our food, when we were in Los Angeles, our food was like $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Wow.
When everyone lived together.
Yeah.
So, it all adds up. But I think for me, one other kind of money lesson was, I think traditionally I was more of a saver. I didn't want to spend much money, pretty careful with money. I should have spent more money in other ways in my life to, like, invest in myself, with sometimes trips. And I did things, but with a family, I made a choice to basically take a lot of savings we had and spend all the savings, and even go into debt for lots of things to invest in the family, whether it's the right schools for kids, the right kind of house with a space. We have nanny help, because that's the only way we can make it sane in terms of me having a job and my wife having work to do. There's all these investments that we make. So yes, we've given up having kind of savings, because we were investing. Not savings is great, but we're like, do we save the money? Do we invest it in this thing which is important for the family? It's been a trade-off. So I think I feel okay with that, because I feel like I've learned how to create money, and I'm not worried about, like, having money at some point. And I know for a lot of people that is going to be different, where if you've always had a job, dependent on that paycheck. And by the way, jobs and paychecks are amazing. Having like stable salary, as long as that company doesn't go out of business, as long as you're not laid off, right? There's that risk. So everyone's different, but for me, I've been more willing to invest the money in the family, go into debt if I had to, because it was always going to be worth it. and not being too attached to like having to save money. As much as I would love to have more savings, but it just hasn't worked out that way yet. It's always something we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. Man, we reached 25 minutes already. I told you, live interview shows are exactly 25 minutes. Aaron, what are the best ways to follow you, connect with you if people have more questions about how you do things, or maybe they have about topics that we haven't touched yet, because even I still have questions open that I would like to ask you. And you mentioned you've written 2 books, right? So, maybe that's on the website as well, where they can find that and get your books, or
yeah.
Please.
Well, probably like business wise, the best place to follow me is on LinkedIn, right? And probably pretty easy to find and follow. But I think that maybe the business website is predictablerevenue.com. Right. And if you have a business or want to make more money, I would recommend the book mentioned, From Impossible to Inevitable. So that's business wise. Personally, I kind of post stuff on LinkedIn. I haven't really like come up with a new personal like blog, but I do post just funny or cute Instagram stuff on Instagram. Nothing that serious. And that's Aaron Ross 383 on Instagram. So AARON, Aaron ROSS 383.
Awesome. So now people know also how to get connected. Again, people, if you'll watch this, if you got some gold nugget out of it, make sure to put that heart button as many times as you can. Make sure to share this with your friends if you think that they can have some benefit from this. I mean, it's all about sharing.
Yeah, I'd love to get some questions from people, because I want to, talk more about this. And
there you go.
I'm starting to have a little bit of energy now these days. The youngest is 3 years old, so I have a little bit more sanity.
Yeah, exactly. Glad to hear it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. Have an amazing rest of the day, and we will talk to each other very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.